guys, what's up? It's Cole. I'm going to try something a little different here by talking about movies on my own channel. If you're familiar with me, you know that I do talk about movies quite a bit on YouTube, just not usually on my own channel, which I tried to always keep the comics. People asked me to do movies on my channel, and I really didn't want to do it, but I decided this time it would be sort of a more unique opportunity because we're doing something a little special here, and that's the Atlantic International Film Festival, which has been held every year where I live in Halifax, and for the last number of years I've always made an effort to get to at least some of it. Never quite as much as I would like because it's fairly pricey, and obviously you need to set the time aside to watch the movies. Now I think I have probably more time than a lot of people to do that, but still, it's a factor. They do offer passes, and there's like an all-inclusive pass, which, you know, you buy the pass and it gets you into pretty much everything. But they're, as you might expect, extremely expensive, although they would pay for themselves if you saw enough movies. Whenever I go to these events, I'm always really jealous and somewhat resentful of the people I see that go around that have the pass. Some year I'd really like to get one. But anyway, at least for the last, 4 or 5 years, I've been getting to, at least 2 or 3 movies. This year's I'm going for a record of 5, which still isn't very much, and you might wonder why I'm even bothering doing a diary, but I don't know, I thought it'd be something a little different. So I already have the movies planned out, and I've actually already seen 2 to this point. We're going to start with the first one, which is The Sisters Brothers, which is a Western, which is new for me because while I've seen a fair amount of Westerns in my time, I don't think I've ever seen a Western in the theater. Ever. And nothing even, close to it, say, Cold Mountain, or one of my personal favorites, the black comedy Ravenous. I didn't see that in theaters either, so I never really saw something with this sort of setting in the theater before, so that's kind of cool. Now, The Sisters Brothers is actually from a French filmmaker by the name of Jacques Audiard, who's quite acclaimed. You can look him up. He's done a fair amount of movies that have gotten a lot of acclaim and good reviews and stuff like that, always in the French language. I've never seen any of them, although I have heard the name before, so that makes me want to check it out. This is his first English language movie, and it stars a few American talents, most notably as the titular brothers. You've got John C. Reilly and Joaquin Phoenix. You also have Riz Ahmed and Jake Gyllenhaal in there playing roles. And it's based on a novel of the same name. From what I haven't read the novel, from what I've heard, this takes some liberties with it. The main thing I heard is that they kind of blow through the first half of the novel, the first 30 minutes of the movie, and then they spend a lot more time on stuff that's covered in the second half of the novel. And there's some key differences, plot points, and stuff like that. But anyway, I didn't read it, so we won't be getting into that. So this was not originally one of the movies I'd planned on seeing. What happened was, when I was plotting out the movies I wanted to see in the schedule here, I didn't at first notice that there was a conflict between 2 of the movies I wanted to see. That would be this upcoming, I'm not sure when I'm going to put this up, but for now, today is Monday and tomorrow is Tuesday. It was going to be Tuesday. I wanted to see The House That Jack Built, the movie with, what's his name? I can't think of names, and this time I don't have Jay or anybody to help me. But anyway, it'll come to me, the serial killer movie by Lars von Trier that's very divisive so far. It's really upsetting a lot of people, and I'm sure other people say it's really great, because it's really brutal and violent, and people think maybe it goes over the edge of that. Anyways, that was one I definitely wanted to see, and I didn't realize that it was on the same night as a Japanese film called Shoplifters, which I didn't know a lot about, but I do have an affinity for a lot of Japanese film. There it is there. It's just sort of a drama, but it had done very well at the Palme d'Or Festival earlier this year. In fact, it won the award. I'm sorry, not the Palme d'Or Festival. It was the Cannes Film Festival. It won the Palme d'Or award. Sorry about that mix-up. Yeah. So I was very interested in that, but it turns out that's the same night as The House That Jack Built. So I had to eliminate one of them. So I'm going to eliminate Shoplifters, which is too bad. Just because I think, I might wind up really regretting it. Maybe I'll just be repulsed and disgusted by The House That Jack Built, but I just felt like this was an opportunity to see something fairly unique that I might not otherwise get. So that's what I'm going for. Here we go. Here's the entry on The House That Jack Built. I know you can't really read it, but there's the picture, and that's Matt Dillon, of course. That's the name I couldn't recall. Uma Thurman's in there, too. So that's going to be Tuesday night. So anyway, I had to replace something, so I decided on The Sisters Brothers, which is one of the gala performances or events, whatever, which means more expensive than the others, and I had to get there pretty early. It was very well attended. The whole top part was filled. People had to move into the seats. Even a few people had to, be in that front part. Not a lot. It wasn't a completely full house, but still very, very, very full. And like they always do, they do somebody that's involved in the festival comes up and does a little speech. They didn't talk too much that long about the movie or anything like that. But anyway, so the Sisters Brothers. I just want to give some thoughts on it, not really do spoilers or anything like that. I'll just start off by saying I thought it was really good. Probably the thing that's best about it is that while it tells a fairly sort of conventional type of Western story, okay, the Sisters Brothers are they have a reputation, I guess, as bounty hunters. They're both really quite good at violence. And in this, they're in the employ of a rich man somewhere in Oregon who they refer to as the Commodore, and they would go out on jobs for him, although not always getting all the information. And this is set up, they're going after some other guy that apparently owes a debt to him or something like that. That's the story they're told. Not too much spoilers telling you that that's not all the information. You're going to find out more as it goes. And that's what we're going. And you get sort of a cold open, too, of them going out to collect a bounty. It's in the pitch black night where they come to some farmhouse where some guys are holding up on. And they only want one of them. There's about 6 or 7 guys. They only want one. And they shout out a warning saying, send him out, nobody get hurt. And, of course, it erupts into a shootout. It's kind of a different sort of shootout because you can't really see anything. You just see the muzzle flashes, which are quite impressive for, guns back then. Okay, so that's the other thing before I get too far. This is, the Old West or whatever of America. But it's older than a lot of Westerns. It's set in 1851, which appeals to me. I don't know why, but I'm not as interested in the Westerns that are, say, in the 1880s and onward. To me, that's a little too late, a little too civilized. I like it when this country is very new and very sparsely populated and more wild and rugged, I guess. So I like anything that's sort of around the Civil War era and before, maybe 1870s, the cutoff for that, I guess. So this is 1851, even, a decade before the Civil War. So I like that very much, and it's mostly in Oregon and then it goes down into California. At one point, our characters go into San Francisco, which was a city that was just really sprouting up fast at that time. And the two characters remark on that they'd never actually really seen a city before. They'd just been to, various small towns, and San Francisco was just so full of people they were amazed by it. Anyway, so they're going out, and also the guy that they're supposed to be trailing, he's the one played by Riz Ahmed. He's first actually being followed by not a sort of a bounty hunter, but a man that describes himself as a detective, or whatever that means, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. And the whole thing is, and one of them even says, Eli, played by John C. Reilly, even says to Charlie, the brother Joaquin Phoenix, like, well, why do they need us at all? And they said, well, he's not a killer. He's just going to point him out to us, hand him over to us, so we can do it. They have a specialized job as killers. Now, I was going to say, what's interesting about the movie I like, as I said, it's a fairly, it seems pretty on par for a Western-type setup, is this movie has a lot of emotional depth. Mostly between, of course, the two brothers and their relationship. But other stuff, too, as they get sort of entangled with Jake Gyllenhaal and Riz Ahmed's characters. And it's really interesting to see. Now, I've seen a lot of these actors in a lot of films, and I've seen Joaquin Phoenix in lots of films, but I haven't seen him in everything. This might be the only time I can remember seeing Joaquin Phoenix being, genuinely funny. John C. Reilly's basically a comedic talent, and he has some really funny bits in the movie, but a lot of the funny stuff is the two playing off each other, the brother relationship. And Joaquin Phoenix is surprisingly funny to me. It caught me off guard. Again, maybe there's an earlier role that hinted at that I didn't see, or something that I did see that I'm just not thinking of. But I was genuinely surprised by how funny he was, and it's really good. That's really what makes the movie for me, is that these two work out so well. And it's interesting, because again, so they're bounty hunters, they're killers, and they're both good at it. The difference is Charlie, Joaquin Phoenix, pretty much he enjoys it. Where you get Eli is also good at it, and you see lots of times where he'll overcome, pretty bad odds to come out on top, that he's a very good shot. He's very good at it, been doing it for a long time, but he doesn't enjoy it. And one of the things that happens in the movie, I don't think it's a spoiler, is that eventually there's a part where Eli is talking about how he would like to finish the job and actually get out of the life. And Charlie is kind of amazed by this. It never even occurred to him to get out. This was the only life he knew, and it's what he's a little good at and what he likes. So even if he stood to make a lot of money to the point that he could retire or change something, he would still just want to continue, because that's what he knows about. So that's a big part of it. So I'm not going to go on too much length here, but I'll just say I'm not really sure what the situation is going to be as far as it's getting a wide release. I imagine it could, considering it's by a French director, but with a lot of French crew and stuff. But it is well-known American actors and an English movie, and a Western, which is I'm sure very accessible to audiences here. Westerns, of course, don't have the popularity they once did, back in, say, the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, but still a good one comes along every now and then that people like. Where would I rank this amongst westerns? Pretty high. I mean, it's not going to touch, say, some of those Man with No Name movies, the spaghetti westerns, which also European made, of course, as people know. Spaghetti westerns, Italian director Sergio Leone. So, yeah, so there's a pretty long tradition of European directors making westerns, based in the United States, Old West, and a pretty good track record, too, of making quality ones. I put this right up there. There's plenty of violence in it, although again, it's more of a drama. It's more about the characters and how they react and how they feel about each other and how events change how they feel and stuff like that. It's quite sad. It has some pretty sad parts. Obviously, some people are going to die in it and stuff. Not going to give any of that away. I'll let you know. But there's even like a death that isn't even really one of the characters that I think I found quite sad. The audience that I was with was quite moved by it and stuff, a little saddened by it. So the movie does a really great job of having a lot of emotional depth and gravitas, or whatever you want to call it. Very affecting movie. I liked it a lot. Great music too. They did it's hard because I've only seen it the once. I can't go back and analyze it, but I thought the music did a good job of sort of standing out as not sounding like just the traditional music you hear in westerns. Some of it sounded fairly different. They weren't it wasn't crazy. It's not like it's full of synth pop or anything like that. But it was enough to make it sort of stand on its own, seem unique to me. Again, I haven't seen a ton of westerns, but it felt pretty differently. So this is a movie that, like, the grit of the West is very much there and the sense of adventure, but it also is mixed in with, like, some reality that isn't always shown in some of these westerns that are more, just about the adventure. Where, even there's a sort of melancholy that runs through the movie and is emoted extremely well by the main characters. John C. Reilly especially stands out, but all of them have their moments. And, yeah, I was pretty impressed. So as a movie that I hadn't originally planned on seeing, it definitely didn't disappoint from that standpoint. So, yeah, like I said, I don't want to go on too much length. But the Atlantic International Film Festival, I consider myself a fan of film, so I try to support it as much as I can. I regret that this year I'm not really seeing, none of the movies I'm going to see I think are Canadian. Last year, not only did I manage to get to a Canadian film, but I managed to get to one that was made in Nova Scotia by Nova Scotians, that was shot not too far outside of Halifax, and even a little piece in Halifax. A really great horror film called The Crescent. I'm not really sure how you would go around seeing it, but maybe take a look and see if you can. A really cool, sort of unique kind of horror movie with some really neat practical effects, too. Some of it evokes Cronenberg a little bit. And I actually got to meet and talk to the director-writer of that movie. I'll just do a quick digression here before I wrap up. It was kind of lucky in that, so another thing they do at this festival is they'll have special screenings of classic movies, and that's what one of the ones I'm going to go to later is. I won't say what it is now. But last year, the big one was that was making the rounds in the festivals last year. It was this special, I think, like 4K restoration presentation of the classic Dario Argento film Suspiria. And yeah, you better believe I went to that. And it was awesome. And it was packed, and people were just, it was a huge crowd. Like, it proves that there's a pretty vibrant scene here of people that really do appreciate movies like that. And the guy that introduced it, he was super, super enthusiastic about it. He was funny. He's one of the directors of the festival now, but he was talking about back when he was running a movie theater in New Brunswick, and how that movie actually, back in 1977, and that movie came in, and nobody knew what it was, and he was just blown away by it and stuff. So that was kind of cool. But anyway, I was going to say, so I just wound up inadvertently, not even on purpose, sitting right next to the director of The Crescent. I knew who he was because that was one of the movies where the director and some of the cast and crew were right there to watch the movie and answer questions and stuff afterwards. I didn't ask any questions at the time. I just listened. It was about 15 minutes. Anyway, so I recognized him right off, and he was talking to other people, so I let him finish. But then I just mentioned that I had just been to the Crescent like the night before, and I really enjoyed it. So we got to talk a little about movies and a little about Suspiria. So that was a lot of fun. Really great experience that I always remember. So on Thursday, I'm going to another sort of classic movie. There are 3 or 4 to choose from, and honestly, I would have liked to seen all of them. I'll say the ones I'm not going to. One is the brilliant Russian film Solaris from Andrei Tarkovsky. If you watch the movie Discussion Pocket Dimension with Jay and I, you know that we did his film Stalker. Anyway, I love Solaris. It's a really long film, but worth it, I think. And the other one is some French film that now, of course, I cannot find. Oh, Belle de Jour, a film with Catherine Deneuve from, I believe, back in the 70s? It might even be the late 60s. Anyway, a French slash Italian film that I've never seen, but I'm aware of its reputation. Anyway, there's one more film. I'll just say it's a Japanese film that I actually even own. I own this film, but to see it in theaters would be great. So that's also another thing I'm going to be doing on Thursday. So yeah, so Sisters Brothers I did Saturday night. Yesterday afternoon I did Ash is Pure as White, and that will be my next one, the Chinese drama. That will be the next one I do on here. Tuesday is The House That Jack Built, and then Thursday. Yeah, we'll leave that for now. We won't go too far ahead. Thursday, a couple films stand off. So 5 films, not too bad, considering. I always wish I could get to more, but again, time, money, etc. I'm still not giving up that some year I'll be completely ready and in a position to actually buy a pass and get to a lot of these films, because I really do love it. It's a great, wonderful experience. Even though I have to usually go to the movies alone, which isn't very fun, it's still worth it to me because it's a really nice experience to get out and know you're supporting something, and that's something that's somewhat local, and it's a chance to see movies that you otherwise would never get to see in theater, which is just a really great thing, I like popular movies, of course. I went to see The Predator not too long ago, and it was okay and stuff. I love popular movies still, sure, but I really jump at the chance to see stuff like this too. Anyway, I know that wasn't too in depth, but it was just as much to talk about the festival itself as the Sisters Brothers. But I'll just finish again. The Sisters Brothers is really great. I totally recommend it, especially if you like those actors, or if you're interested in westerns, or I don't know, maybe you're just craving something different. Probably people don't see westerns too often. I think it's a really interesting movie. Especially, as I said, the dramatic stuff, the emotional stuff. It really worked for me. I thought it was highly effective in evoking strong emotions, a lot of depth in there, very well-rounded characters that you are interested in and really do care about, and seeing them interact with each other, and when certain characters are going to meet for the first time, for me, there was sort of a building sense of anticipation. They're trying to catch up to their bounty. What are they going to do? Are they going to decide to kill him? What's going to happen? A lot of interesting tension there, and turn of events and stuff I didn't get a chance to mention, but I don't want to go on too long, so we'll keep it here. So thanks a lot, guys. I'll have the next one up pretty quick, and we'll see you again soon. And I don't know, let me know what you think. I'm kind of interested in if anybody's even watching, if they're interested in this sort of thing, because to me it just seemed like a unique opportunity. So anyway, that'll do for now. Thanks a lot. Peace. I'll see you later. Bye bye.